Hey, as you may know, Deltarune Chapter 5 releases tomorrow. To celebrate, I'm going to rank every current Deltarune theory before it gets absolutely destroyed tomorrow. Or maybe proven right, you never know. At the end, I'll even share my own prediction board. Without further ado, let's get into it. Theory number 1. Azriel is the mysterious caller. This theory proposes that the person who calls Chris during the Holiday Manor sequence and at the end of Chapter 4 is Azriel. While it would work pretty well if Carol was the mysterious caller, we also know that it's Toby Fox, and it probably isn't that obvious. Azriel is closer to Chris than Carol is, and probably more trusted. Chris also seems very concerned about what the soul sees that's related to Azriel. They close their eyes when looking into his room in Queen's Castle, and when praying about him, fervently try not to think about him. Additionally, we see that Chris has been trying to contact Azriel by computer, to such an extent that Alphys knows this. They haven't been very successful due to the shoddy internet in the town. We've been given almost no information like this about Carol, which could mean a lot about who's doing what in this grand conspiracy. It would also explain why we've been given almost no new information on Azriel or his whereabouts since the start of Chapter 1. Overall, I really like this one. I think it proposes a new angle that isn't so obvious, but it's really plausible. Not my favorite, but definitely A tier. Theory number 2. The Bibliocs, a Chapter 4 enemy, are predicting the names of future Deltarune songs. They already say the names of most of the soundtrack in their act, but there are a couple of outliers. This theory predicts that Roots, Festival, Synthesis, and Amphitheater will all be future songs on the track. Not too much to say about this one, I just think they're right. It's a very clear setup, and we know the song Bit Roots exists, so why not the regular version? Also, Toby did make a fan-made Yume Nikki song called Amphitheater, so there's a chance that will appear. I like this, and I think it's right, but I don't think it changes much. We suspected Roots to be a theme further on, and the festival was definitely going to have a main theme. Overall, C tier. Theory 3. Royal Flush. This theory doesn't really have a lot of presence, but it's there. Basically, a royal flush is a poker hand with a king, queen, jack, 10, and ace of the same suit. And when looking at Chapter's bosses, we have a king, a queen, a jack, and, in someone else's words, not mine, a 10. Yeah, I know, but this is Toby we're talking about. This theory goes on to say that Chapter 5's boss will be an ace in some way. There's not really that much beyond that, like there was with chess theory. Overall, I think this one has potential, but I don't like it. I don't think Chapter 5 is going to have much significance on the main story. The weird route is another thing though, and I will cover that in later theories. D tier. Theory 4. Knight Training. I like this theory. It suggests that the knight is already capable of starting the roaring by itself, as it's seen with its expertise in Dark Worlds, and all it would take is a few fountains. So why hasn't the knight started the roaring? Well, here's the theory. The knight is training the Delta warriors. It specifically only opens or has someone open 1 or 2 fountains at a time, and it deliberately spared the Delta warriors, notably knighting Chris for their efforts. The knight, perhaps due to its dark nature, is unable to fight against the roaring, so it's training people who can, notably Chris, who has a human soul. The prophecy never says that the knight will start the roaring, just that it will duel with heroes, strife by strife. It keeps creating stronger and stronger Dark Worlds with more and more emotion tied to the objects there. The first was just a simple closet, the second was a public library, the third was a family room, and the fourth was a church. We also expect the fifth to have major connections to one of the main characters and take place in the flower shop. This could be an especially tough world because of the fact that plants not only have a lot of emotional attachment, but they are actually alive. So yeah, the knight is training the heroes. I like this one a lot, especially since we're unaware of why the knight would want to start the roaring in the first place. S tier. Theory 5. Dual Knight. This theory suggests that Des is the knight, and they have Chris's native soul in them. In conjunction, it claims because of this, both Chris and Des are simultaneously the knight. There are a lot of things to talk about, but I'll dumb it down a little bit. We generally believe that the soul that the player controls does not belong to Chris. We know that Chris was close to death and may have even been there at the time of her disappearance. The night's flavor text also states that Chris is getting more and more sick as the fight progresses, almost as if one could say they are fighting themselves. There's also a lot of nonverbal communication between Chris and the Night, such as the infamous cough and the climb scene in Chapter 4. Chris's soul and his determination could explain a lot about the strange properties of the Night. Chris also has signs of being on the Knight's team, getting knighted, creating fountains, and so on. There's also the Chapter 3 backstage minigame to talk about. The black monster that mirrors Chris's movements is a placeholder sprite that's a deer, clearly representing the Knight. How did Chris's soul get in there? Well, we don't know, but it would explain a lot. I feel like there's too much skimming over for this one, but I do like it. B tier. Theory 6. Chris Tragedy. This theory states that the final panel of the prophecy in some way will reveal that Chris will die. This is implied by Ralsei being so motivated to tell Chris specifically not to fight. The other two are also specifically keeping Chris out of it. I personally don't like this one. I think Chris is the one least likely to die via the prophecy, given Susie's reaction. Susie laughs at the prophecy and claims that none of them would let it happen. Notably, she says, especially Ralsei. She doesn't even address Chris in her thoughts, and Ralsei doesn't directly address Chris, only himself. I think Ralsei and Susie are likely candidates, but almost nothing is said to Chris here. F tier. If Chris dies, it's a lot more complicated than that. Theory 7. Conformity theory. In conjunction with the theory that Noelle is the second hero of the prophecy, this theory states that Susie will then replace Noelle as the girl because Noelle is not strong enough, and that this will change in the weird route. Noelle tends to conform to things. She generally accepts being told what to do. Yes, she challenged that at the end of Chapter 2, but she believes that to be a dream, and is still very overshadowed by her mother and those around her. She's also borderline masochistic in her fantasizing of being bullied. She's timid and unassertive. She doesn't really have the strength to fight difficult threats in her personal life, let alone a Titan. Susie, on the other hand, generally is extremely assertive and doesn't care what others think of her. She's very blunt, focused, and some would say, filled with determination. Overall, she's a much better fit for the prophecy, which is why the weird route is about Noelle becoming stronger. She's becoming more physically powerful. The problem is that the weird route is in turn making him more subservient, in this case to Chris. It's doing the opposite of what it's meant to. This one's okay. It's just, once again, it doesn't change that much. Noelle has no idea what the truth of the prophecy is, let alone that she's in it. Susie has already effectively replaced her. We also know about the double effect of the weird route. I like this theory, it just doesn't change much. C tier. Theory 8. In-between theory. This theory is stated that the depths do not exist in the light or dark world, but in between, and that's where Death and whoever conjured the soul, most likely Gaster, are located. So far, we've been assuming that the depths are a darker than dark world, but that doesn't make a lot of sense with Ralsei referring to the dark worlds as darker than dark. If the dark worlds are at photon reading negative, like in entry 17, then what exists at photon reading 0? I think this one is entirely plausible. It could reshape everything we know about the depths and WD Gaster. A tier. Theory number 9. They/them. This theory is a play on Chris's pronouns. It points out a discrepancy with the Roaring Night fight. When it swoons Susie and Ralsei, the slash does not come from the right, where the knight is, but from the left, where Chris is. This would imply that Chris is... Susie would not have noticed due to her guard being dropped, but when Ralsei walks up to Susie while his sprite is angled up at Chris, he says, quote, "How could you?" Finally, this is potentially foreshadowed in the final mantle minigame, where you must cut down Susie and Ralsei to progress. This would also explain why Chris is knighted at the end of the fight. The knight is rewarding them for their commitment. This also ties in very well with the next theory about Chris's violence. I love this one. S tier. Theory 10. Chris's sadism. This theory points out the signs that Chris is a sadist. In the Chapter 4 egg room, the other person doing art therapy says, This is where we draw paintings and don't kill each other. In addition, ERAM references that Chris enjoyed the weird route, the same part of you that enjoyed yesterday. The weird route, and can even be inferred that they enjoy it. This also ties into some theories I won't be talking about, like that Chris murdered Des, quote, you can never wash it all the way, and so on. As I previously mentioned, this ties in pretty well with Chris' slash theory. If Chris is a sadist, this would explain almost all of that. My one problem with this theory is that Chris has been proven to not enjoy the manipulation and pain of Noelle. Think back to the trash can scene in Chapter 4. That is someone positively in rage. I think that roots it out for me. Let's go C tier. Theory 11, Modified Game. The original Mantle minigame is very violent. In contrast, Tenna's modified minigame is that of a child's adventure. There isn't much substance to this, but one can start to think that the version of Deltarune we play is modified, and that the original was much more violent. How? Well, we don't know. Potentially discovering it. But maybe not. This one's very loose. It's a nice concept though, and I hope it gets expanded upon. B tier. Theory 12. Neo-Woody Theory. Yeah, I'm not talking about this one. F tier. Theory 13. One ending, multiple perspectives. This theory suggests that there will only be one ending of Deltarune. That much is sure. The theory suggests that there will be multiple outlooks on that ending depending on what route is taken and what actions were taken. It could be triumphant. It could be sad. It could be neutral. It all depends on your perspective in those final events. Given how much Toby has been hyping up this ending, it better be a damn good ending. I like this idea. People have been wondering about the only one ending question mark on the Steam page for Deltarune for so long. I think this is very plausible, and could give insight to further theories. S tier. Theory 14, Retelling of Stories. In conjunction with the last theory in the modified game theory, there's a lot of themes about retelling stories, especially with Gerson. Fate will be rewritten in some way. Things will change, like with Dragon Blazers and Lord of the Hammer, like with Mantle and Tenna's minigame, potentially with the original and R Deltarune. Wait, R Deltarune? That seems familiar. Oh yeah. At the end of Deltarune Chapter 4, our mystery voice, by this point most believed to be W.D. Gaster, says the words, "My Deltarune." So yeah, the crux of this is that every story gets retold a different way every time. Sometimes for better, sometimes worse. I think this theory is cruxing that at the end of Deltarune we will be given a choice. To go back and do it again. Not everything will be the same, and we can rewrite the story and keep trying to get the good ending. I like this storytelling trope a lot. It's used as the crux in Hades Town. Quote, it's a sad tale, but we keep telling it again and again, in the hope that it might pan out this time. I think this has a lot of potential, especially as glued hold other theories together. I'm going to go with A tier. Theory 15. ERAM is the horns. We know that Chris wore Halloween devil horns in an attempt to fit in with their monster family, and that they are now gone and misplaced. If they were somewhere, they'd most likely be in the house. We also see a demonic figure who knows a lot about Chris and their insecurities. This theory concludes that ERAM is the darkener version of Chris's horns, colluding with the Knight, giving Chris the mantle, etc. While they seem to have presence with the Knight and only exist in the Mantle minigame, we're not even sure if they're a darkener or not. We have to figure it out more. Until we have more information, D tier. Theory 16. Susie is not the girl. This one you've probably heard of before. I've referenced it in other theories here. I don't think that it's debatable anymore. The prophecy refers to the second hero, the girl with hope across her heart, and the girl at last was the girl above an image of the rude Buster, which is Susie's ability. Noelle fits more with the image of the first girl, and Susie's theme of defying fate and expectations would certainly imply that she is not the original hero. In addition, the last girl is not listed as a hero. This calls into question what Gerson said at the end of his fight. At the end of the Gerson fight, Susie asks what Dragon Blazer's character would she be in the story, and he responds with the Dragon, who is notably a villain. This could imply that Susie is defying fate in her role, or that she will end up as an opposing force. This theory is rock solid in my mind. This one has been talked about before on this channel even. I still believe it wholeheartedly. S tier. Theory 17. Goner Jockington. Thematically, theory number 17 is related to Gaster and Goners. In English, Jockington's dialogue is kind of weird and clunky, while in the Japanese version, it almost mimics Jevils' dialogue. In addition, he's one of the only characters with a presence in the prophecy. Actually, he's the only character to get mentioned directly by name. Not the snake grows the beard, specifically Jockington grows the beard, accompanied with an image of his face to boot. He also makes references to Chris being the dunk, which ties into the ending of Chapter 4, where Susie dunks Chris into the Titan's eye to defeat it. He claims he's familiar with the dark arts. Finally, he's always seen wearing glasses, which could conceal the fact that he's a goner. Goners typically have blank eyes, in some cases not even having pupils. We also know that Gaster likely experimented in Hometown, so why not a Goner Jockington? So, does it make sense? Not really. It's a pretty crack theory, but something's definitely going on with Jockington. C tier. Theory 18. Titan Spawn Origins. For our final theory, we have the origins of the Titan spawn. This may seem stupid because, are you stupid? They spawn from Titans. To which I would point out that we've never seen a Titan spawn emerging from a Titan. To cover this, we have to talk about what happens when a Titan spawns. A fountain is made within a fountain, which then blazes blue. And then the overwhelming darkness turns to stone. Then a Titan breaks out through that stone. The turning to stone part reflects what happens if a darkener is overwhelmed with darkness. This is very unsettling, and could make a huge impact on how we interpret this game. The problem with this is that we don't directly see the darkeners turn to stone when a Titan is made. As far as we know, all the darkeners are fine. I like this a lot, but I feel like it lacks a lot of evidence, and the probability knocks it down a lot. Let's go with D tier. So that's every Deltarune theory ranked. Obviously, it was not every one, but I tried to cover the prominent ones that were actually somewhat complete. So, without further ado, here's my final rankings. If you have any theories you wish I covered, please put them in the comments below. In addition, I have a nice present for the community. Here is my Deltarune Chapter 5 bingo board. Feel free to screenshot it and print it out for your own uses. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.